Baggage. Teenagers might only carry a fanny pack. Seniors a steamer trunk. Be cautious of the traveler who, after a certain age, let's say 35, claims not to have any. That's a sort of baggage in itself. I'm newly arrived in the terminal of foreknowledge that is online dating. Wondering who my next seat partner will be, equipped with repartee and obscure references intended to be cool, hoping to size up the other explorers with impunity. Our profiles and pictures pinned neatly to our labels, we browse itineraries and each other. Some travelers peek at tidbits of information, smiling, winking, striking up conversations, content to let a flight or two go by before deciding on a companion or a destination. Some huddle in the corner watching the others, hoping to virtually plot the full course of the journey before venturing even as far as the first introduction. Others scurry about with clipboards in hand, complete with pre-departure checklists. Their heads bob from checklist to profile as they make lightning-quick comparisons. Politics, children, yes or no? Religion, yes or no? Music preferences is a reflection of worldview. And of course, they must do a pre-boarding baggage check. This is not necessarily unwarranted, much as I hate the idea of being weighed by my luggage. Perhaps the last time you spent time in this holding zone, you chatted up a perky, curly-haired redhead dazzled by her knowing comments about the Decemberists. And her seemingly unphotoshopped creamy cleavage. Only to discover, when you offered to carry her calfskin shoulder bag, that it contained a bowling ball, a fifth of mezcal, and a fold-up machete. Not only was she unable to board with you, but it took 6 months to recover from the groin strain. You are now understandably cautious. Or maybe your last seat partner beguiled you with self-deprecating hints of difficulties with his luggage, while sharing his love of Leonard Cohen lyrics, long-haired calico cats, and cooking authentic Indian food. With abiding compassion, you offered to sort his dirty laundry once the two of you reached your destination. Finally alone, secure in your privacy, you discovered that his trunk held the corpse of his sexually dysfunctional, financially inept, maniacally jealous ex-wife. And their dog. There's just no getting rid of that smell. I stand at the curb pondering my own luggage. I have several oddly shaped pieces, more than most travelers, and some are noticeably heavy. There's the duffel bag I've had since college, very worn but also comfortable and familiar, mostly filled with old photos and poems that don't scan well. My mother guilted me into taking her Samsonite train case crammed with Dear Abby dating advice, pale pink press-on fingernails, and a girdle. I returned the load my ex-husband gave me. Lugging that around was the only time I hurt myself. It took me a while to realize the empty bottles he had packed had no redemption value. A couple bags contain daily necessities, most of which aren't even mine. Those are the most awkward to deal with, often throwing me off balance, although I've never dropped one. My youngest thinks I should be responsible for her homework satchel. My teenager's array already fills considerably more than a fanny pack. I tote his Prozac, doctor's appointments, and therapist phone numbers zipped into an inside pocket. Slung over the other shoulder is my own Asian therapy print bag, filled with journals, self-help books, lavender eye pillows, dark chocolate-covered ginger, and Valium. I'm worried. I fret over the collection at my feet and wonder what a potential seatmate will assume about me. My baggage is weird looking, but the contents are thoroughly sorted. I know where everything is, how important it is, whether I'm likely to need it soon. I've always been able to manage it by myself, although it's nice to get a hand once in a while. Maybe I should check all my bags quickly, the bundles of my past and the burdens of my present safely out of sight, free to regale prospective partners with witty banter about the foibles of online communication and the irony of asking permission from my 16-year-old to date. And yet, what happens when we emerge at the other end and all my baggage is displayed? A quip about the health advantages of weight-bearing exercise might not appease him. I could confine myself to one or two carry-ons, not the most conspicuous or heavy, obviously, but enough to launch conversation. That cute backpack I took to Europe years ago, maybe. The faded love letter from my long-lost Greek girlfriend might be titillating, but I may have to surrender that flask of absinthe and the souvenir pack of Jatane, since I can't remember which ones are tipped with hash. I sort through the various pieces, reviewing their contents, assuring myself of their significance. I glance up for a moment and reorient to the here and now. An age-appropriate, height and weight proportionate guy is checking in and checking me out. With a surreptitious glance, I discern intelligence, an air of whimsy, a sense of confidence. I'm impressed that he resembles his profile picture. He smiles warmly and winks. He skims my neatly printed, carefully crafted, grammatically correct profile. He completely disregards the luggage at my feet. Ah, yes, of course. He's looking at my tits.
La Belle Époque. I think of you as I would any self-made image. As I sit in the international terminal at SFO, waiting for my flight to Munich, anticipating our rendezvous, and watching Annie Hall. Wearing headphones and laughing at thin air while efficient blonde Germans stare at me, the madman. I feel too young to have a fondness for Woody Allen. Shamed into silence and worried about transatlantic battery life, I waited for boarding, bored. I pondered my brother's musing on relationships. He told me not to make anything of this chance encounter, that I should leave my preconceptions behind and just be, and just be. After takeoff, I thought about my therapist. She approved of my recent decision of non-interference, approval being the one thing I seek more than you. 3 in the afternoon there, and it's still only 6 o'clock in the morning to me. I'm amazed that what once took 2 weeks in a boat now only takes a few hours in this flying hunk of steel. It got a little rough over the tip of Greenland, and like a white-knuckled cliche, I reflected. Then we were touching down, and there was a promise unfulfilled in my roamings of Munich and their Oktoberfest, steins oversloshing and the stench of cinnamon and carnival rides. The residence left me unsatisfied. Again, I was reminded of the futility of you, a perfect mirage oasis I hope one day I'll find. One day this thirst will quench, and just be, and just be. Finally, Paris, the last true city of the world. Work before play, and it pays the bills. But I know when this business class life catches up with me, there will be a reckoning. But until then, I shake hands and give speeches, feeling misplaced like Heinlein's Stranger, with surrogate French mothers showing me a lit Eiffel, bouquinistes and intellectuals with their sophisticated disinterest. And then there was suddenly you. Only it wasn't sudden. In fact, you were slow and lagging. I wasted hours sitting in a nameless, lackluster hotel room watching MTV and The Simpsons, wondering of the importance of my window view. Which buildings were famous, painted, revolutionary? And in the end, I suppose everything is important to somebody. And in the end, I suppose I could have gotten off my ass and dared the unspoken streets. I could have done anything except sitting. But instead, I just accepted sitting until finally, stomach turning and threatening future embarrassment, I felt 3% fatter just looking at you sitting there, reading your French book with your delicate porcelain skin and your blood orange hair. Just then I knew your promise broke, and I could never just be. Still, we smile and hug and walk and play pleasant. I tried not to stare while projecting an attitude of casual. We share the friendly disposition of two strangers with a mutual figment past. And you are the gracious host, even if you can't remember your way and must confer with your well-worn map every few blocks. We walked the Louvre, and I found Mona lacking, but your favorite painting gave me chills too. The light being cradled like a newborn, slipping through the fingers of Jesus or Mary or some other Christian figure. A light older than Notre Dame or Sacré-Cœur or the Seine itself. A light that was there before the paint or the canvas, before Joseph the Carpenter or George de la Tour, before the chiseled marble stone or gold-laden framework or thinly printed pages. A light that just is. That just is. The next day I got lost in the Opera House streets. I must have walked near your job 3 or 4 times at least, panic rising like indigestion in my throat. What if I kept you waiting? What if you went looking? What if I could never find you again? What would become of us then? And it's all just so ruined, so completely given up. I may as well sleep now. And yes, this thing keeps going in and out of the past because that is how the mind works. The heart, however, the one true time traveler, the one that knows hints of pasts yet to be created and presents that are felt long before their arrival, the heart was there when the light slipped by. And this heart felt like home in Paris, walking next to you, felt like a home I had already left as a young man, returning to find that everything has changed and moved on. But when I wandered lost, this heart stumbled, groping for a word or two to orient itself, and all it heard was, mais un peu, et juste être, et juste être. Later, sitting alone at the front row table for 2, I ate the complimentary prix steak, contemplating your à-point burlesque, and then the awkward moment of nudity. When you danced up on that cabaret stage, I counted the ripples in your abdomen. I wanted to breathe you in, but instead I smiled to ease this beautiful time. After the day had just begun, we stayed up all night in the rum-soaked bar, drinking Hemingway and smoking Castro. We talked of old lovers and philosophy, and I felt 3% sexier, smarter, miller. And your promise renewed itself. Or maybe I was just drunk enough to believe that. Maybe you were too. Either way, the heart stumbled yet again, clumsy, fudge-thumbing buffoon that it is. Only this time it led us to your door, onto the futon. And then the romance left me. The rest of the night I nursed a stormy stomach back to calm waters. The moment had passed, along with any promises. The next day was pleasant, but I could feel the waning. I had already gone, and you pulled away ever so slightly. Once again, 2 lines came close to a fulcrum never crossed, and that felt right, but not very Parisian of us. We wandered one last nuit blanche, cold and wet, utterly soaked to the raisin-wrinkled depths. I took pictures of the Moulin Rouge, and you told stories of kids spitting on metro blowholes. I caught a cab at the very last second, annoyed with my own obsessive need for security and the brevity of our goodbye. It didn't feel like an end, but a few hours later, thinking of you from takeoff to landing, Stockholm settled into my mind, and it seems that whatever will be, will just be.